I just want to make a few points. And Minister, while I admit it's too early to say with certainty the impact that the restructuring process has had, you have to admit that the process did not have widespread support, and serious reservations were expressed regarding the manner in which it was undertaken, the lack of a cost-benefit analysis, and that it risked disenfranchising those who had contributed so positively to MABs for years. In other words, volunteers, volunteers, volunteers. And in every aspect of Irish life, volunteers are so important. Now, Fianna Fáil recognises and values the vital work that MABs and CIS do. And during the recession, many individuals and families relied on the help and support offered by those services, and in many respects they provided a vital lifeline for many of those who found themselves unemployed, in mortgage arrears and overwhelmed by debt. And it is a fact that people could go with ease to MABs and speak to their volunteers. It gave a great service to many families who felt they had nowhere to turn for advice and guidance, and it definitely was the link that many people needed to prevent insanity coming to some people's lives and families. And I can tell you that from people I know that I brought to MABs over the years. It really was something important, and that half-an-hour advice or sending them somewhere else to get more advice really was so important to those people. Our party spokesperson on social protection, Deputy OD, brought forward a motion in March 2017 which passed in the Dáil and received widespread, by the way, cross-party support, calling for the restructuring process to be halted. Members of our party who sit on the Social Protection Committee also welcomed the report from the committee which called for the restructuring process to be stopped, at least for a while. We have raised this issue on numerous occasions on the floor of the Dáil and by way of PQs to the Minister for Social Protection. Indeed, we have called on the Minister for Social Protection on many occasions to intervene in this issue and not to ignore the will of Dáil Éireann, the overwhelming will of Dáil Éireann and the will of many staff and volunteers to change the structure. And Deputy Ryan, I think, put it well when he spoke about the trust factor, where people were at ease speaking to MAB volunteers. And I know I've mentioned this before and I mention it again. That was significant and that was important. And as I said earlier, it was that link which was so vital and so important to many families in particular. We called on the Minister for Social Protection to ensure that any restructuring process did not result in the downgrading of the quality, effectiveness and accessibility of services to citizens. Now, Fianna Fáil recognises that there is a scope for greater efficiency and effectiveness and is not opposed to change and reform where necessary, but we are nevertheless concerned about the considerable disquiet surrounding the restructuring process. It is vital that the concerns of those directly involved in the provision of services are taken on board. Many volunteers have given freely of their time and energy to those services and now feel that they are more or less pushed aside and their contribution is no longer valued or wanted. We should never let that happen to volunteers. And it's not only in this aspect, in many aspects of Irish life, as my colleagues would know, this country would be in a different zone if it hadn't volunteers. The government haven't shown much regard for those who express concerns about the restructuring process. And the government is guilty of hollowing out the community and voluntary sector, ignoring and downgrading the valuable experience and contribution of those who have contributed so positively to the communities for many, many years. So that's why we're supporting this bill. And that's why we feel that, it has been rushed through. And you definitely cannot say that it's an improvement. I will admit, we can't say either that it has, gone the other way. But you cannot stand here, or no minister can stand here and say it has improved everything. I would be very, very concerned about the fact that those volunteers that were so well trusted are no longer really part of this process. And I have to say, like other deputies, I regret very much that the Minister mentioned again that dreaded two words, money message, because it appears that those of us, and many of us who will support this bill, are not going to be listened to. I hope, Minister, you can give my concerns to the Minister, and really I appeal to you, maybe, as has already been said, maybe you should withdraw your opposition to this and let it go to committee and let it be discussed. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Minister.